everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Grave Mercy by LaFevers. I believe that's how you say her name. The way that this was basically pitched all over BookTube or everywhere that I heard about it was that this was, a nun assassin's story. The story follows Ismay. I think that's how you say her name. Ismay? Not completely sure. I say Ismay. She has been living with her father who, basically abused her all her life, and she gets married off to a guy who looks like is basically going to be continuing that streak, and then she basically gets saved and then taken to a convent. This story takes place in the 1400s, so the convent isn't necessarily like a Christian convent. In the story, they establish that there are different types of gods, like a god of war, a god of love, kind of like Greek and Roman mythology. And so it is said that Ismay is a daughter of the god of death. She gets taken to this convent that is for that god, and she is brought up and raised to be an assassin for him. Then all of a sudden something major happens and she is forced to basically go undercover and infiltrate this one castle and try to figure out what's happening there and to keep the Duchess safe and things like that. This book starts off really, really strong. It's really interesting seeing just where Ismay comes from, how all of that is sort of dealt with, and then seeing her in the convent, learning about this life and sort of training and getting ready to become an assassin, and even you see her first mission, I believe, or her first couple missions, and all of that was super, super interesting. But the book drastically slows down once she goes on this undercover mission. Once she goes to the castle with the lead male Duval, everything changes. It becomes less about her killing people and more about sort of the inner politics of this castle. And then there's also just this very high emphasis placed on the romantic aspect that's happening. It's clear from the beginning, and even if you just read the back of the book summary, Ismay falls for Duval, even though, you see her throughout the book denying what she's feeling, but it's pretty obvious that she's falling for Duval. And I mean, in general, I was basically okay with those aspects of it. I kind of knew that there would be romantic aspects to this story. I was really invested in this story, but then the more and more that it went along, the less and less I enjoyed it. It became pretty obvious from the beginning, at least to me, who the quote-unquote bad guy was in this story. There is this aspect of the story where you're just trying to figure out who is spying on the castle for the French, and I felt like from the beginning it's very obvious to see who is helping the Duchess and who isn't. Even though people say things the way that they're all said, I feel like it's pretty obvious to tell what exactly is going on. And again, the romantic aspect of it doesn't feel like this growing love that they are having for each other. It basically just feels like they fall in love in the beginning and they just deny it throughout the book, and then eventually they give into it, which isn't really my preference when it comes to romantic storylines. But there is one aspect of the story that really just pissed me off. I'm going to say that this is a spoiler, so I will have a link on the screen so you can click on the screen to jump ahead to after I talk about this, just in case you don't want to know about this. I don't think he really gives anything away, but I'd rather be cautious. So basically what happens is, towards the end of the book, Ismay realizes that Duval is being poisoned, and she isn't exactly sure how he's being poisoned, so she can't figure out an exact cure for him. But there is a single scene in the book where Ismay kisses Duval, and then the next morning he seems significantly better. So then she realizes that her kiss had a positive effect on the poison, and so she basically sleeps with him to cure him of the disease. And at that point I was like, is this actually happening? Like, I went on Goodreads to see if I was alone in this, and there were a couple other people who talked about it, but it seems like no one else notices that this happens, because it does go by pretty quick. It isn't like there's an explicit sex scene, it just mentions about her laying with him, which, in case you aren't aware, that usually means the characters are having sex. But I couldn't believe that that was the solution to the poisoning problem. But I was just really irritated at that point, and that was the point where I just completely couldn't take this book seriously anymore. So that, combined with just the fact that I was losing interest as the book went on, and by the end of the book I kind of didn't even care how it resolved, just left me with a really bitter taste in my mouth, and I don't think I'll be continuing on with the series. I mean, I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that this isn't the book that I thought it was going to be. I feel like this is more like historical fiction romance than historical fiction assassins. In the end, I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars because this book was pretty engaging, and it wasn't until that last part that really pissed me off. So I didn't want to dock it significantly, and I can understand why people like this story, but it just wasn't for me, and I probably won't be continuing on with the series. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Grave Mercy. If you have read this book, feel free to leave your comments down below. I know that there are a bunch of people out there who read the book and really enjoyed it, so definitely leave your comments down below letting me know why. I think it is kind of a fun book, but just those little things just started to build up, and then by the end I was just really disappointed. And also, if you really enjoyed this book, did you realize what was happening with that scene that I talked about in the spoiler section? So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.